Welcome to the Dying Breed podcast. This is Andrew Miller. Andrew has been a friend of mine for quite a while. You were raised Amish. He's a contractor now. Has been. How long have you been a contractor?
3.5 years. 4 years.
3.5 years. You just got back from Israel.
Yep.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like being raised old school, strictly old school, like no power, no electricity. Do you guys even have did you have running water?
So we have running water in our homes, but like for us, we didn't have running hot water. We had cold water.
Right.
No hot water. So, taking baths and stuff, which is why we didn't. No showers. It's strictly baths only. We'd have to heat our, water on a big wood-fired kettle.
Wow. And you, that was a once a week ordeal?
During the summer, usually we had Wednesday night and Saturday night. And
okay.
We clean ourselves. But yeah.
We've talked about one of the most amazing things, like we were discussing this off camera. I wasn't raised without electricity or power. I think I was 12 before we had a TV. And I was only allowed to watch it at 5 o'clock on certain nights. Other than that, we were outside playing all day long, every day.
With sticks and mud.
And scraping ourselves up. And today, that's not a reality for most kids. And then also, like you see the big thing now is homesteading.
Right.
Everybody wants that lifestyle,
right.
But I don't think they understand how much work it is.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of that. It's like it's become a fad almost to want to homestead. And for me, it's like, I came from that. I'm not saying that I'm not doing that anymore, but raising your own food is a lot of work.
Right. Well, you guys did it all with horses.
Yeah.
There was no electricity, no power, no gas power,
right?
No rototiller.
So there was no rototiller. We were allowed to use gasoline, internal combustion engines, but like in a shop or if you had something like that, you would run a line shaft and everything ran off that. There was no generators. We did have welders, but we weren't allowed to use them as generators.
Okay, I got you.
And even my dad had a buggy shop.
Okay.
So he had to use an airless sprayer that ran off of a line shaft, not powered with electric. So you had to disassemble this thing to make it run off,
right.
Gas motor. It's crazy. It in some ways, it actually brings out the ingenuity of, especially the Amish, they figure out a way to get around not having electricity.
Right.
Whether it's nowadays, it's, since I left the Amish, it's all, they use DeWalt batteries or, cordless tool batteries with a light bulb on top. They have those hanging in their homes because it's battery, therefore it's okay. Store electricity is okay, but
it's not. I got you. It's like the little the details, splitting a hair or two.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of funny now looking back. I'm like, dude, you guys are using electricity. You're just charging it, with solar, which is cool. I mean, they're off grid.
Right.
But a lot of them will, like in Holmes County, Ohio, where some of the bigger Amish populations are, there's literally guys that will put on a couple solar panels and then they hook up to the line to make it look like they're running off solar.
Oh my God.
And nobody knows the difference. Seriously, I was like, man, you guys are just, now it's all about look.
So for you, walk me through, because you left. When did you leave? What year?
What year it was? I was 19. I think it was like 2010, 2009.
Okay. And you said, now was your dad that kind of decided to leave, or how did that work?
Well, so we first got kicked out of the old order Amish and moved to Ohio to a new order Amish, which was more materialistically advanced, I guess you could say. Like, we didn't have bikes
right.
growing up.
Right.
We didn't have those till we got to Ohio. And then in Ohio, there was, I don't know, things just didn't really work out with that particular community. So Dad just kind of wanted to take the back seat and whatever. And I was on my way out already at that point. But then a few years later, Dad and the rest of the family pretty much all left, within 5 years after I left. Except I had one brother that went back to the Amish.
Oh, really? Okay.
Got one brother in Michigan.
Well, you were part of a show.
No,
a reality TV show at one time, right? What was it called?
So it was called Amish World Square as Teenagers, which I just thought was like the lamest title, but that's what they called it.
Right.
Anyways, so that was in England, and I believe mostly aired on BBC, and then they did like a shortened version on Nat Geo, and it all ran, I don't know how long. I don't even know. My neighbor texted me and was like, "Hey, I'm watching you on TV." I'm like, "Okay, that's weird." They weren't actually supposed to air it here in the States. We had a verbal agreement that they wouldn't air it in the States because, like, at that point we were, we didn't want the Amish community finding out that we were on TV because, Amish don't take pictures or doing stuff on TV. So my parents didn't really want the Amish to find out that we were on TV, whatever.
Right.
So we had a verbal agreement, which obviously didn't mean anything.
Well, because I was going to ask, I was like, well, that's a taboo. You're not supposed to take pictures.
Right. Yeah, they always turn their heads. And
well, it's kind of ironic because I was almost a Mennonite as a kid.
Right.
My parents were like hardcore, almost Southern Baptist, super, super strict.
Yeah.
And probably not strict to that degree, but we were definitely strict. And I think one of the things that turned me off the most was some of the splitting of hairs that people do to get around stuff, like follow through, like what, if you believe this, like stick to it. And then like when I got out of that kind of lifestyle, got out in the world, it was a culture shock.
Yeah.
Like it definitely, I don't know how it was for you, but I went to college. I graduated when I was 16, almost 17. And I think the first college course I took was when I was 17, and I get on campus and I'm sitting there like, holy shit.
Right.
Like, awkward and homeschooled.
So I didn't even realize that. So you went to college for a little bit?
Yeah, I have a degree. Believe it or not, I'm educated now. I'm a degree. I have a bachelor's associates.
And then in what?
Liberal arts. It's the only liberal thing I've ever done in my life.
See, that's all Spanish to me because I don't even know what liberal arts are.
Okay, so like there's basically 2 degrees. You can do liberal arts or you can do like a science. Even though I'm liberal arts, most of my classes were math classes. So at one time I was debating on going to like be a math professor.
Mm-hmm.
I was good at math. I liked math. I like absolutes.
Right.
I don't like you show up to a class and then like, we feel about the sunshine.
Right.
That's like, who gives a
right?
That's us what we feel about the, I didn't like the fluffy stuff. I liked the stuff that was hard. Then I went, after I got my AA, I went and I was a year out from getting my bachelor's in criminal justice and forensic accounting. And I was showing horses. And I found that I can make way more money showing horses than I ever could being a forensic accountant.
Right.
And, and I think that's where my opinion of education as a whole, we wasted so much time. Yeah, you're a trades guy. You work hard every day. You make a great living. You work for your family. You've got, I always forget. You've got a few kids around 4 kids.
4 on the ground.
4 on the ground. So, and I'm just a newbie. I've got 1 expecting, and really, fuck, I'm scared.
Yeah,
but like education as a whole, I'm not convinced that education it was never meant to educate you. It was meant to give you the tools to go out and seek information,
right,
and obtain information. Unfortunately, I think YouTube broke the education system. Yeah, because I mean, in a lot of ways, we can go out, and if I need to do something, I can watch a video on YouTube and figure out how to do it. I do think the way that I was raised, and I would say that the way that you were raised, like you were talking earlier about how basically necessity is the mother of invention.
Right.
You know, ingenuity. You did that because you didn't have a choice. So like in my life, I'm the same way. I do things a certain way, or I think through problems, and I'll have someone working with me, or, we'll be hanging out or doing something, especially your 18-year-olds. They don't have that. Oh, that's not a good idea. They don't have that elevator all the way to the top floor. They stop about mid-floor.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, you've seen it in your job.
Yeah, I would say that also another thing that like societies, as far as society goes, we have such a comfortable life that our kids grow up with all the toys they want. Like, I see that as a bad thing.
Right.
Like, I grew up playing with sticks and inventing ways to. We had Tonka toys. I mean,
I had Tonkas too.
We had like half a dozen Tonka toys, which we just ran the ever living wheels and things up and down the sidewalks, or wagons. Like we'd have pickup trucks, out of a wagon. Our wagon was a Chevy, or it was a Ford, or whatever.
Right.
Mostly Chevy. Anyways, but it was just funny how we were inventive with we had to be creative because we didn't have all those things given to us. And I think, like, even with my kids, they have toy boxes full of Lego logs and Legos and that kind of thing, which I'm not against those things. I just think that giving them all these toys and putting them in front of a TV takes that imaginative brain out of them when they're young, and they don't learn how to adapt and overcome.
Well, and I mean, we talked about this off camera, about the fact that we would like our kids to experience some of the lack.
Right.
You and I are never going back to how we were raised.
Right.
We like our creature comforts.
Right.
We like our cell phones. We like the TV. We like what we have.
Right.
We know what it's like to be without it, and we know that we would be okay without the modern conveniences. I think a lot of these homesteaders are. They don't like this. Like, we had the power outage here 2 months ago or whatever. Like, it's 40 degrees outside and people are losing their mind.
Right.
It's 40 degrees. It's okay.
Right.
It's
wear a few more clothes and wait till it's over.
Yeah. I mean,
back at it.
The water's out. Okay.
Right.
Power's out. Okay. Like, I mean, we live pretty rural. Holy, thank you. We live pretty rural. Oh, suck me. We lived out in the middle of nowhere, and the power was not a for sure thing.
Right.
So we never went without it for days on end.
Right.
But the power would go out. Well, what do you do? Well, if it's really stormy, you go inside and light candles.
Right.
Or we always had camping gear. If it was out for long enough.
And if you're Amish, you just keep sleeping. You don't worry about it because you don't know the difference. No.
Well, and again, I think, but I would like my kid to experience. I mean, I had a beat up 1500 Sierra. That was my first rig, and I thought I was put upon because I had to beat up 1500 Sierra that couldn't pull anything. It was like, it was so weak. Your third gear everywhere, anywhere that's a hill, because if you go to fourth or fifth, man, you might, but it was 2-wheel drives, and we lived in snow country. I could put a set of chains on in about 5 minutes today, and I'm not even in practice. Back then, it was like 30 seconds each wheel, and I was stuck when I did it. It wasn't like I was on the road. You never put them on.
Right.
Until you were stuck,
right?
Because you were too damn cold and too lazy to get out of the truck and put them on when you should.
Right.
I want my kids to experience that. I want them to understand what it is to not have something, so they appreciate when they have something.
Right. My example of that is, like, I remember walking home from school in blizzard conditions. It was like probably 10 below zero. And I'm not even exaggerating. I grew up in Wisconsin. So
Yeah.
so we not even. And I would hold my lunchbox beside my face to block the wind. No gloves, face just beat red. Walk home a mile and a quarter or so from school. And my kids whine when they have to leave a warm car and walk 10 yards to the house. And I'm like, if you could only experience just, one walk, a mile and a quarter through a blizzard 10 below zero. Man, we had days where we didn't go to school. If it was 10 below in the morning, we didn't go to school.
Right.
But yeah, that was just
and,
growing up.
And I mean, it's funny because, we were never hungry. My parents always, I never lacked for food. We didn't always have the best food. Yeah. Even today, like I look back and I'm like, in a lot, I would say in my mind, we had great food.
Yeah, quality food.
We had quality food, but we ate a lot of rice and potatoes.
Yeah.
So you might get one piece of chicken. Chicken was a staple. Chicken and pork, man. We didn't eat a lot of beef because beef was expensive.
Right.
You don't appreciate people will, our kids, I don't know that they will ever understand how that moment when you come out of the snow and it's brick and cold,
right,
and you walk in the house and that moment of heat around the wood fireplace.
Yeah. Everything's stinging and burning.
Yeah.
It's warming up.
Yeah. But like that feeling like that, they won't understand. They won't appreciate it. Right. Like that. Like we have heat now. Like I turn the button on and I get heat instantaneously. They won't understand. Like my parents would make us go stock the wood box.
Right.
It didn't matter if it was snowing or not. We had to go out, get wood, bring it in. And there's nothing like, there's a sense of accomplishment. You've accomplished something. You've provided your own warmth.
Right.
And I agree. I don't think, I hope my kids can experience that a little.
Right. They need to experience it a little. Do you think they'll grow up in 50 years? They'll sit here and talk about that one time they lost power, for 2 days and, it was shivering cold in the house.
Right.
Like that to them is going to be a tough
day.
And maybe 50 years from now, we'll have our own personal robots. Right. And, when the power goes out of our robot, we're going to be like, man, it's tough.
Yeah.
I have to actually get off the couch.
Right. We're not going to be mega monsters with bear guts out to here.
Well, it's just, where everything's going these days, I don't like it at all. And
there's working with your hands. I'm in better shape now, especially getting ready for the journeyman competition and stuff that I'm trying to do. I have to be in shape because a lot of it's cardio. You're the same way. You work hard. You bust your ass.
Sometimes.
Okay. Like you make me feel lazy on a good day, dude. Like you work so hard, but we don't know any different.
Right.
You don't know it. You've always worked that hard.
Well, I told you the other day how I was feeling down because I haven't been working hard enough. And I don't know. I'm always in good spirits when I know that I have work in front of me. I don't know why. Like maybe it's a bad thing, but
it's cycle. There's a psychological reason. There's guys that could go into the pros and the cons and the reasons for it. But I think one of the main problems with the young men today and the ones I see, their story is going to be, I played Fortnite.
Right.
I played video games through my entire high school, grade school career. I played thousands and thousands of hours of video games.
Right.
That's their legacy. That's what they're going to do. Grandpa, what'd you do in high school?
Right.
And we wonder why, quote unquote, depression is so high. I don't think we as humans are designed to be sedentary.
Oh, I can tell you exactly why depression is so high is people don't have a feeling of pride for getting something accomplished with their own hand. Like when I get done with, laying tile in the shower.
Right.
And it looks really good when I'm done. I stand back and I'm like, man, I actually did something with my hands and it's there for hopefully at least 50 years for somebody else to enjoy or to be seen.
Right.
And when you don't have that kind of job or, anything, any job you do, whether you're an accountant or whatever, you still have some kind of, feeling of satisfaction for doing something for humanity or the greater good of everybody. And I feel like, and you can see that in people's homes, if they live in a way where there's just they're just given everything. There's even, you never see a house that is really well kept. I shouldn't say never, but like rarely do you see a house that's really well kept when somebody's just handed everything.
Right.
And they have them once they check, especially if they're poor.
Right. Well, and I think, I mean, and I'm prejudiced, but I think there is an added bonus to stuff you build with your own hands. I think that, like, there's guys out there that are, accountants, lawyers, and they feel that accomplishment sitting at a computer screen all day long. I get that. There is something primal about, for me, bending a piece of steel and making a horseshoe and fitting it to a foot and then nailing it up and watching that horse walk off.
Right.
I mean, same thing for you. There's something primal about cutting boards and taking something that's literally just sticks,
right,
and turning it into a craftsman, a work of art. It is art.
Yeah.
I mean, what you do, what I do think what we do is art.
Right.
But we're probably more artistic than most people would believe.
Right.
Well,
everybody has their own twist, and you see that even in construction world. Everybody has their own twist to things. Like, they think like doing it this way looks better than that.
Right.
But to most, using your finger. Right. It's to spread cock.
So we should talk about this, because to catch everyone up, Andrew has been working on my bathroom. He has 2 guys, great guys that work for him, absolutely phenomenal individuals. And I mean that in all seriousness. But Andrew cannot convince one of his guys to use his finger to spread the caulk. Apparently, if you're good enough,
This sounds so wrong.
It sounds so wrong.
We just end this conversation.
Yeah, well, Andrew apparently is good with his fingers. Apparently. You're on kid number 5? So, moving on. We've exhausted that conversation. We can keep going. So beyond that, you got into contracting. Favorites? Do you like shop building, tile? What's your favorite? If you had a favorite.
I don't have a favorite, because if I had one thing I had to do all the time, I would hate it. Probably the only reason. So I was on a farm. I first started my first job. It was 3-4 days a week stacking lumber. Actually, it's 3 days a week I would stack lumber, and then 2 days a week I would go work construction with my dad. My dad grew up doing it. So since I was 14, I've had a full-time job.
Right.
Which most people don't start for.
No.
Unless you're on a farm,
I think
you grow up.
I got my first job. I was mowing lawns in the neighborhood when I was 7.
Right.
When I would go across the street and mow lawn. But I ever since then, I've always had a summer job. Right. I mean, and that's the other thing. I don't keep. It is sad that we're not imparting work ethic.
Yeah.
Will put you. The idea that I've heard this said a couple of times, and it amazes me when kids say this, and they go, "Well, I'm too good for that." What do you mean? Like, my dad always said, he said, "You will never go hungry, and you will never be without work if you're not too proud to sweep the floors."
Yeah.
And Dad would always say, because if you're in a shop and there's nothing going on, grab a broom and go to work.
Right.
And I don't. That kind of work ethic is becoming extinct.
Right.
The idea that I can go to McDonald's, I was talking to a guy about this today. The fact that I can go to McDonald's and make 50 to 70,000 a year flipping burgers.
Right. Well, it's an important job.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, that shouldn't be.
But I made less than that working, busting my butt.
Well, agreed. I mean,
I feel like that's kind of unfair.
I think the first year I was shoeing horses, and man, I tried hard. I think the first year I shot horses, I made $20,000. Thank God I was living at home. But, but I mean, I paid for my shit. I mean, it wasn't like I was living at home and just the money went in my pocket. I had to pay my own bills, pay for my materials.
Right.
The only thing I didn't pay at that time was rent. But I mean, I get that, right? If you want to flip burgers, get free meal. Like, if that's your career and that's your passion, 100% go for it. I think my point is that that's where people are staying.
Right.
They don't want to go beyond that. They don't want the responsibility.
Right.
They don't want the stress. I mean, being self-employed, you've been self-employed longer than I have, technically.
Yeah. Or I've been self-employed probably longer than I have been employed.
Right.
And as an employer, though, I do see that the thing that's hard as an employer is to find good quality employees that just want that daily grind. You know what I mean? Because and which I have a couple of, I appreciate the hell out of them.
Right. Well, they're awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, both of them did a great job.
And so, like, I'm thankful that I found
one of those Amish.
Yeah, Aaron was also former Amish.
And but again, I think the way that you're raised, like, if nothing else came out of being Amish other than your guys' work ethic,
Right.
I mean, money well spent.
Well, that's the thing. I always think that, the best thing that I, got or inherited from being Amish, growing up that way, was our work ethic. And I think, like, that's priceless. I just wish I could have my kids grow up in that.
Right.
I remember going over to our cousin's farm and we put all the hay up loose hay.
That's something I've never done.
The whole barn would be full of loose hay.
Because I know nothing, I've always done bales.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it more efficient? Like, do you get more hay in a barn than you would, like, square, or no?
No.
Okay. What's that look like? Walk me through the process.
So you have a wagon, flatbed wagon with two bang boards and one each end. And then you got this hay loader that you pull behind. Now, this is the way a lot of the Amish anymore will haul the hay to the barn, run it through the baler, and then goes up.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
My cousins in particular were putting out loose hay. And you put down the sling on your bed of your wagon. You fill the wagon half full of hay, and then you put another sling down, and you fill it again. The hay loader on the back of the wagon brings it up, dumps it on the wagon.
And you're filling the hay loader on the back. Are you filling that with pitchforks?
No,
or is it driving along?
It's driving along. It's wheel driven. It picks the hay up, runs it up.
Right. Okay.
Runs it up the deal and dumps it on the wagon. And then you unhook from the loader. You go to the barn and you unhook the horses. Well, usually they have like a drive-in hay, like a ramp going up to the second floor, the hay mow. And then you hitch the horses and hook them to a cart. And then you have this track and pulley system we have ropes. You grab that first sling. So it'll take half a load at a time. And the horses will pull it up and it'll latch onto a carriage. A lot of the old barns, you still see those tracks. Right?
Yes.
So
you have the door that comes out.
Typically that's, some of the old school loose hay methods were with, two forks. They would just grab a fork load at a time. This was probably a more advanced system, I guess. Anyways, it takes the hay up, latches onto this little trolley, and then you can freewheel it in on the track.
Right.
And then you have it. It's still got some slack, and then you start swinging that hay back and forth till you get it, the right momentum, and then you have a trip lever, and it basically throws the hay to one side. So
how hot was it in the barn when you were swinging that thing back?
I have no idea,
but it was hotter as hell.
Yeah, I was only like, 8-10 years old probably at that point. So I was mostly watching and helping and probably getting in the way more. I still got to watch the process. And
so you again, this is something I wanted to cover. You guys, you use horses for everything.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand, because horses are not, much like women, sometimes they're not the most, it's not their idea. They don't want to do it.
Right. Can be. There's good horses out there. There's some real bull-headed ones too.
Okay, bull-headed horses. Let's talk about your favorite horse, the one that Ted.
Yeah, he was a tough one. He would grab I was telling you, he would grab the bit in his mouth. He had like 2 teeth missing in the back. He would pinch the bit back there in that spot, and Dad would be pulling on the reins, and the tugs, usually would pull the buggy with, completely loose.
And his, the buggy was like right on his ass. And Dad would be hanging on that sucker. We'd be flying out. I thought we were flying down the road 15, 20 miles an hour maybe.
Which is damn fast.
That's pretty fast for a horse. And Dad had a beard down here, and he would split in the wind. He would fly like a motor. He'd be like on a Harley, Instead of up here with the handlebars, you have the reins like this, and yeah, that's pretty cool.
Your sister made the mistake of smacking you one day, as I recall.
Yeah. This horse didn't appreciate, you didn't even take the reins and just give him a light, let's get up and go.
Right.
He would take that as I can run as fast as I want to go. And anyway, she did that, made the mistake. She was mad at him because she couldn't hold him. She was like, I'm just going to let him run his freaking tail off. And, come flying up the road. Missed the first drive. We got into the second drive with it, but garden was freshly plowed, and she ended out in the middle of the garden. He just couldn't pull the buggy anymore. Because he just stalled out. Just soft. Yeah, soft dirt. It was pretty funny.
How much trouble was she in for wrecking the garden?
So at that point, nothing was planted. It had just gotten plowed.
Oh, gotcha.
Anyway, this is a pretty funny story.
You just got back from Israel.
Yes, sir. Well, we've kind of, this is why I see in America is we've had, and I appreciate it. Everybody needs to go to a country like Israel or a country that is, doesn't have life as nice as we do here. Because you don't really appreciate what you have. Even just appreciating the fact that the military is taking care of us, watching, keeping.
And then not every one of us has to be in the military, because they go for 2 years, every swinging day. And Israel and women and men is in the military for 2 years in Israel.
Right. Regardless. And then there's reservists, everybody else there's guys that are 70-some years old still toting their AKs around or ARs around.
But remember, you don't need one for protection.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, Ukraine, they freaking armed their own people.
Right.
Israel arms their own people. But you and I, don't worry, you'll be fine. We'll take care of you.
Right. Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, I go to Mexico. I don't work when I go there. I'm your basic white tourist. but you walk through Mexico, you're driving through Mexico, and you see the poverty. And you see how they live. Honestly, the best thing that ever happened to them is Americans figured out it's a lot warmer down there, because all us people up here in the cold country are like, oh, we're going for a month. But you go down there and you see them. They're great people. They're happy. And honestly, not so much anymore. It's changed over the years some more. It's just like here. Our kids have gotten soft because they're used to having everything. So you go down there, even though they're in quote unquote abject poverty, they're used to American dollars.
Right.
So I was at a couple of them. I was at one place in particular, and I was like sitting there, and they looked at me and they're like, tip. I'm like, motherfucker. That's an earned thing. That is not like, I don't just give you money because, but in their mind now, American, you tip that. And I piss my wife off because I'm like that asshole that I walk in and they're like, $40. I'm like, 20. Right. And then they look at you like you shot the dog and, did unspeakable things. Right. But in all honesty, they probably, the ones I talk to, they're like, oh, you're not as dumb American. You're not as dumb. I mean, we live in this country, and I don't think we understand how good we have it.
No, we don't. That's the
we
thing.
don't.
They're out of touch with reality. Put it that way.
They don't know where this food comes from.
Right.
I mean, when we see this, and to bring it back full circle of where we started this whole podcast, the whole homesteader lifestyle that's become so popular in the last few years, I think it comes out of COVID, out of quote unquote shortages. And I said this during COVID, oh my God, there's a shortage. I'm like, no, there's not. We're fine. And they go, what do you mean we're fine? I said, we're fine. The cream corn is still on the shelf.
Right.
Nobody bought the cream corn off the shelf.
No, but they bought toilet paper.
They bought some. Okay, toilet paper is electric. Just for the record.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
Yeah, we used to use the phone book. So
Yeah, you thought you had a band where you used a corn cob.
Oh, shit. Don't use sharp rocks or thorny pitchings.
No, literally, I remember going to when we'd go to my grandparents, they would have a phone book there, and you would rip pages off.
Well, that's where reading material started in the back.
Guideposts. That's what it's good for. Wetting your butt. About it.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying, I refuse to, I'm not saying this has happened to me, but for anyone interested, magazines with the slippery, it doesn't work super well.
Yeah, that's why I tell the phone book.
Yeah,
cheap paper. Yeah, cheap paper. And if you're want luxury, premium ass wipe, you take that page and you wrinkle it up.
Oh,
it's just soft.
It makes it soft. I have to ask, because on my last podcast, we did that. I have a SWAT team guy here. We discussed the two-holer.
The what?
The two-holer.
Oh, yeah.
The two-holer.
Yeah, we definitely had to do it.
Yeah. So do you know why they had two-holers? It was not so you and your buddy could hold hands while you both had the astro problems.
Okay.
And comfort each other. It was actually because apparently they were lazy. And if you had two holes, you used one hole until you filled that hole up.
Well, you go.
And then you moved over. And then when you filled both those up, you moved the house and buried it. That was, I'm just.
We always picked ours up and, roll it forward and then shovel it out. And,
you'd
we'd have to clean it out.
People will never understand the.
No, you get to clean up your own mess. We taught at a young age, pick up your own shit. Hey,
I thought I had a rough one.
Yeah, you thought. Yeah,
I thought I had
having to pick up your toys. No, literally pick up your shit. Oh man, it's not that bad.
No. I'm just saying
it's just reality.
That human shit, in my opinion, like people go, horse shit, man. There's nothing worse than horse shit.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing worse than horse shit. That's that's
horse shit. Kind of has its own smell and its own thing that it's actually kind of like, I don't know.
You were talking about, because smells at home, right? Smells that give you a nostalgic feeling.
Especially a fart coming out of a horse,
right?
When you're driving down the road behind it.
So
you don't get to smell that when you're on his back.
Yeah, I ride horses.
Yeah. We'd be driving, going somewhere with a horse and buggy, and the horse would fart, and the whole buggy, you'd smell it. You're just trapped in it.
I had an old man that I worked for a while, and he had a saying. He said, "Farting horse never tires. Farting man is the one to hire."
That's right.
And
I tell my guys that all the time.
But you're talking about smells. So like when I walked, you were working on our bathroom, and I walked in. I was working all day. I've been working all day, so you probably can smell it now.
Well,
I smell like horse feet, pasture, whatever. And you said that probably one of your favorite smells is dairy.
Oh yeah,
The dairy lard.
Oh yeah.
I love. Describe that. I've been around cows, not really dairy. I can smell dairy. I've been around a little bit, but like that smell.
Well, a lot of times it's mixed with the smell of silage, which and I think that cow shit has kind of a sweet smell.
Okay.
Like in a dairy barn,
right?
And then you have that pungent odor of silage. Yeah, it's like
almost
it's
like cocaine, like cocaine for the nostrils.
Puts the hair on your chest. But it's different. Like there's obviously rank smells and cow shit, but most of the time, like especially in the winter, the cows would be in the barn. You'd have like this high humidity in the barn. Everything would be kind of
right.
Then you have this warm.
See, I'll be honest. Some of my favorite memories, like as a kid, like you'd be moving cows because we did more of the cowboy, like beef cow. But like the smell of your horse, and you're moving up and moving across the ground, moving with the cows, and you're not moving fast. I think people, they watch Yellowstone, they get an idea that you're driving the cows at Mach 10 speed. It's very slow.
Right.
The idea is that the cows walk the whole way.
Yeah, you're just escorting a tank across the ground.
Yeah, and they can be rather obstinate, but like the breasts coming out like that's like sitting in a barn watching a calf be born with that breast coming out of the mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then that baby's first. I mean, I think everyone should experience that. Like the sanctity of life means so much more. Seeing that.
It's that, and I also feel like it brings like a certain part of reality.
Right.
Growing up on a farm, which, us as a family actually grew up, we only had like 1 or 2 cows most of the time, and then 100 chickens and, half a dozen horses. But seeing, you had goats, but like cows have a calf. You love that calf.
Right.
And then because you bottom feed it most of the time, it grows up. After it's about 1.5 years old, we eat it.
Right.
But we love that animal.
Right.
But the fact that it had to die, we never thought twice about the fact.
You understood. And
we understood it was going to grow up, it was going to be food. But we love that animal. It sucked, seeing it die. But life and death is like part of life.
But again, like that, understanding your food, understanding like you grow it in your garden, you raise that calf, you put all that time and effort in, and it may, again, the appreciation. Someone that's gone to the store their whole life and picked and grabbed a piece of steak off the shelf and taken it home and cooked it up will never understand. And I mean the pride too, because like it's the idea that we had really good steak, we raised a calf that tasted good.
Mm-hmm.
Most of these, and I'm going to get in a future podcast, we're going to discuss this. I've actually got a couple of farmers I want to bring in on this, and a couple of beef producers. We don't have much for dairy here, but beef producers. The whole grass-fed thing.
Oh, get me started.
Because like, my wife even is like, oh, I want grass-fed, and she buys grass-fed hamburger. I'm like, grass-fed? I'm like, you see any white in there? She's like, yeah. That's not grass-fed because grass-fed beef doesn't have fat.
Right. I know exactly. This kind of goes in with the homesteading thing, in my opinion. Like, they think it's all better, but I don't mind grass-fed. Sure, it might be healthier, but dadgummit, you can't beat a nice marbled steak.
No.
And you don't really get that with grass-fed.
Well, I don't think, and again, most of the people out, and I, to be honest, most people don't know what a good steak. Like, they don't know the difference between good steak and bad steak because they never had to raise one.
Right.
I've butchered cows and ate cows that were pretty much pasture fed. I know the taste.
Mm-hmm.
I've butchered cows that are fed out and gravelled up, and I know the difference. So, and I'm confident that the cow that was fed out with corn is just as healthy because I raised it as I am the grass-fed beef. And in some cases, the grass-fed beef that I've had, I didn't raise. It was more like an accident type deal. In fact, a few years ago, I bought a Jersey. It was supposed to be a steer bull that they were supposed to feed out. It was the skinniest, rankest. We dumped the meat we got from it was so bad and so rank that we gave it away. We took it down to the shelter, which I don't know if that was the right thing to do. Even but I mean, it was better than, I guess, throwing it out.
I don't know,
but and I'm lucky that I have the privilege, if you will,
to get the cream of the crop.
Yeah, the cream of the crop. But again, I don't think people understand. I think as a society, we've been sold a bill of goods.
Right.
Like most people, they see the word organic, and for some reason, they think it's more healthy.
No. A lot of times, it's actually not necessarily more healthy. You might have less chemicals on it, but you can actually grow a good quality product with good quality fertilizer. Just because it's organic doesn't mean you shouldn't use fertilizer.
So the crazy thing is about, again, I'm going to go into this more like hardcore more, but organic does not mean it's sprayed. It's not sprayed.
Yeah.
So like there's
certain things you can't spray it with.
Well, this is what's crazy. So you can't use Roundup, like
Right.
one of the most common things. Like let's say,
Which I don't think is a bad thing.
no, I mean,
I think there's ways that we can get around.
Right. But so here's the crazy thing. So Roundup, so basically the way chemicals are built to kill plants, they look at what that plant doesn't like,
Right.
and they spray that on there.
Yeah, just like
Right.
drowning us.
So
water's not good for
Right. It's funny how that works. When we were kids, my brother, I was dunking my brother like all hell one day at the pool, and my mom goes, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "I'm baptizing him." We were religious. As long as I was baptizing him, it was okay. But
funny.
I mean, so they're spraying down in the Tri-Cities. There's a crop duster down there, mutual friend of a friend. He went down there and he was worried when everything went organic down there that he was going to lose a bunch of business. Mm-hmm. He's spraying organic fields, normal fields he sprays 1 to 2 times a year. He's spraying organic fields 6 to 7 times a year.
Right, but they're probably using a less effective product.
Well, it's less effective, and here's a really crazy thing: it's way more toxic. So on normal spray, just like a Roundup, not a Roundup, maybe like a 2,4-D to like a broad mist, he can get, I think, 300,000 acres out of his booms on his plate. With the chemical that he's using for the organic fields, he's getting 1 year out of his booms. 2 or 3. 1 year out of booms.
Literally eating.
And it's eating through stainless steel. And the chemical that they're making, and I'm going to research this because I want to do this whole thing. I want to do another thing on this. But the chemical they're using is actually produced by sap from a tree down in South America somewhere, is what I've been told.
So it's basically organic.
So it's basically organic.
Cocaine is organic, right?
Yeah. Well,
You just refine it a little bit.
just a little bit. So is heroin technically. Heroin's technically organic.
Yeah. Because maybe they might have sprayed something on the poppy fields.
That's fair.
Yeah, so it could be non-organic or heroin.
So funny shit about that. So my granddad was a crop duster.
Right.
And one of his best friends got a job. He was working for both. He was working for the cartels and he was working for I can't remember how it worked. I thought he was working a little bit for both, but he was spraying chemical to kill the fields down in South America. So he's killing all the fields down there for the government, getting shot at. He ended up cracking up his plane and getting left Mexico City. And several pilots that went down there and pulled him out of the hospital before he freaking somebody whacked him for, messing with the business. Okay. But that's a whole nother story. But like I said, when that chemical that they're using for the organic fields, they're killing around an acre rainforest for every gallon that they're getting of this chemical.
Well, it kind of goes back to the whole, using electric cars.
Right.
It's literally cutting 2 inches off the bottom and putting an inch on the top. You're losing more than you're gaining.
Right. Well, you know where that saying came from.
Yeah.
He's a Native American chief. Yeah. Only a white man would say that he can cut
2 inches off the bottom of the blanket and put 2 inches on the top.
and make a longer blanket.
Right. No.
But look at our society. That's where we're at.
I know. We're so far. That's what I mean. We're so far out of touch with reality that it's not even funny. Like we're due some good hard times to bring us back to reality.
What's the old saying? Tough men.
Tough times make good men, or tough men, whatever. And then tough men create good times. Good times make weak men create hard times. Yeah.
Hard times create tough men.
It's a cycle.
And I think, and I'm hoping that the pendulum will swing, that there will be some tough men. And in all honesty, I don't think people want to admit it, but we are in fix. We're making less today on average than they made in the Great Depression. The average income in the United States is less than what they made the average income during the Great Depression. So like in the Great Depression, if you add in inflation, take what they were making, down the average median income.
Right. Well, what was the cost of land per acre?
Oh shit.
That would be interesting.
15, 20 cents an acre.
The newer making like $1 a day.
Yeah. I mean,
Shit. That means I need to make like $5,000 a day.
yeah. Because, and I mean, that's on the, shit, they're selling 5-acre lots around us for $300,000.
Right.
I mean, and in my mind, there is no way that pencils out.
Which I would say back then, probably real estate was undervalued compared to now because there was less people, less demand.
Right.
What are you going to do if you own land? You could own 1,000 acres,
Right.
but you wouldn't have the ability to farm it.
No, and
So
I
there's
mean,
a lot more.
you know, your average, I mean, and we talked about this too, like the farms, you know, you look at some of the farms that were like up where we live, where I used to live and where you live now. And Craigmont, you know, a big farm back in the day was like 3,000 acres. Like that was a huge farm.
Yeah.
And that meant that the family usually had 5 to 10 kids. They all worked on the farm.
Right.
And maybe 1 or 2 left. But it supplied an income for the family. And for the family, like their son and daughter,
Right.
or, you know, let's say 3 of the kids stayed, it supplied an income for those kids' family.
Right.
You look today, that 3,000 acre farm won't supply an income for a single family.
Right. Pretty much, yeah.
You know,
I feel that what I would like to see is farmers get paid for what they for the quality that they produce. I think you would see a huge. It would go back to the necessity being the mother of all inventions, where if people were getting paid for the quality that they produce, they would figure out a way to produce wheat or whatever cereal grain or whatever they're producing, whether it's animal or grains. They would figure out how to produce those things in a better quality. There might not be quantity, you might not be.
well, here's the problem. So when I worked on a farm, it was so we had an organic side and we had a very small organic side. So like, I think it was 50 acres of organic. We had I think it was 6,000 or 7,000 acres in industrial. We even had our own mill that we milled the food.
Yeah, okay.
So we had our own seed treatment plant. It was actually pretty cool. It's just up the road here. When I was there, our production of organic wheat, quote unquote, quality organic wheat, because I mean, it was good wheat. Our production of that wheat, on average, an acre was 25 bushels an acre in Lewiston.
Which don't live around 100.
Yeah, we were getting 150 the same year on our industrial side.
Yeah, I understand.
So I think the really hard thing, and I don't think people understand this, the U.S., for instance, in one valley in California, we produce 2/3 of the world's rice.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like,
Oh, I agree.
instead of going organic or full industrial, you get paid by the quality. Doesn't mean you can't have quantity,
Right.
but you would have quality because, like with corn, we've expanded the germ in the corn seed where there's less food value in that corn. You might get 2 or 3 years,
Right.
the amount of you have to eat 3 times as much to get the same amount of quality.
Well,
so if you could focus on quality, it would be better for everybody.
I think there's going to have to be a shift. I think you're going to need the industrial side.
Right.
But I think I would agree with you. I think a lot of beef producers are doing this now. So you see a lot of beef producers doing private sales. So your 40-acre herd, instead of trying to go to the sales yard, market the steers, taking a gamble on selling those steers to a meat
Cut out the middleman.
They cut out the middleman. They go on Facebook Market, which is one of the hardest things that we have going on right now is Facebook Marketplace, because you cannot sell any animals on Facebook Marketplace at all. You will get shut down that quick. So the fact that I can't go on there and market my beef cattle, my healthier quality beef cattle. And I do agree. You and I, if we produce a steer, that steer is guaranteed to have good quality, because you know and I know that we're not going to put stuff, or we're not going to do questionable things with that steer.
Right.
most of your beef producers, the issue with quality isn't, in my opinion, isn't even really on the production side. So like your beef cattle, your beef, your main beef producers, and your main, I worked for a couple. I was at one today, a big farm, right? Bigger farm, very successful, good guy. They are absolutely. So now they're doing like falling numbers when you take your wheat in. So you have a certain protein count, you have to blah, blah, blah. So they're really trying hard. Where is the quality slipping? It's the middleman. You send on average, your hamburger that you eat at McDonald's, or even
You're talking about feedlots mostly.
Yeah, I mean, your hamburger.
There's a lot of unethical things.
I know
that happen there.
So like a lot of people don't understand that when they buy burger at the store, that can have up to 50 different cows in it.
Right. Yeah.
So where is the production side? And I get we need to produce.
Well, we do need to produce, but I think if we could get it back to where it's
Quality,
and then buy local. I can't stress that enough. Buy local.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Everywhere you go.
And guess what, guys? If you pay $5 extra for a local guy, that's $5 that stays in your community.
Right.
It doesn't go anywhere else.
Right.
I'm amazed. I always buy local. Given the opportunity, I go in and buy locals.
But it's a local beer. Well, everywhere I go, I like to try a local beer.
Well,
I just like to see what people like to try.
By being local, I'm supporting somebody's kid.
Right.
I'm giving them a chance at education. And we've lost that. We've lost community. We've lost the sense of community.
Absolutely. I wanted to say something earlier when we were talking about, having a farm and all that, life and death on the farm and the whole thing. I don't think any of these PETA people or, people that are animal rights activists realize that, the life we give that animal and the way we respect that life, there's probably nobody that appreciates an animal more than the person that relies on an animal.
Right.
I mean, the animals are our livelihood.
Right.
And we're going to respect that animal.
Right.
Like, they're a tool.
We don't cause them pain.
Right. Because, we're obviously going to eat that animal eventually.
Right.
But, we want that animal to have a good life because we know we're going to eventually eat him. We're not going to, that's why I buy local, because know that animal didn't go through a feedlot where it got treated like shit and got pumped up with all kinds of hormones and crap food, and then got shipped off to a sale and got slaughtered. Which, all animals have to die eventually. But
even with the feedlots, and I go back to this. Like, I've worked in a feedlot a little bit. Probably the most disgusting thing for me is our major backing. The company, not even the feedlots, is not even what disgusts me. And I think feedlots, okay, it's inevitable, it's a necessary evil. I get it. We got to produce enough,
right?
But when you look at the American packing system and how tight they have that, that goes back to government, live and let live. The government has made it almost impossible for new packing outfits to open up. And the quote unquote regulations.
Right.
I mean, I can't remember. I'll research.
It came from places like Chicago where you had a family with that had a cow and that lived in poor living conditions for that cow, and people got diseases from bad milk. That whole thing. Well, then you have to have a government agency that regulates that stuff.
Right.
And it always goes out of hand.
Well, the problem with it, there's nothing more efficient than government. And so
inefficient than government.
Inefficient. Yeah. Thank you. Inefficient, not efficient. Yeah. There's nothing more inefficient than government. But looking at, there's several people that know way more about it than I do. But when you look at actual packing outfits, the big packers that are making 90% of the meat that's bought and sold in this country, they are absolutely the ethics there is really like some of the stuff they've done over the years, like contamination is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like hot dogs are floor sweepings, dude.
I don't. I vouch for that.
I mean, they're literally, and chicken
The guy
nuggets.
that worked for Oscar Mayer, he's like, at the end of the day, we just scrape everything off the floor and throw it in. He's like, I'll never eat an Oscar Mayer hot dog.
Holy shit.
And that's just straight from a horse's mouth. But it goes back to, like, we could do with a lot less government regulations.
Right.
If we bought local. Because that's what I do. I go to my local butcher and I'm like, hey, who brings in the best meat? You'll be like, so-and-so. And it's okay. I want one of his cows.
Right. Well,
And so that's how you would get regulated. Because then the guy that's not producing quality or is not he's doing unethical things in his bottom, because it shows in the animal.
Right.
By the time it's done. So that guy is not going to get the sales he needs. So he's going to try to always produce quality. Like it comes back to getting paid for the quality of.
Well, would you argue? I mean, I think the supermarket has contributed to that.
Of course.
Because it used to be you had a grocer, you had a butcher.
Right. Every town had its own little thing.
Yeah.
It was a little micro economy.
Yes.
And I think if we got back to that, we would be way less affected about what happens out in the U.S. economy.
Right.
We wouldn't give two shits.
Well, and unfortunately, we may be back there because the way the world's going, it's a very real thing. But can you imagine all these homesteaders? Homesteaders, use that word loosely.
Yeah, they have a chicken tractor with 10 chickens.
Yeah, and it's
not going to survive on that.
And I'm like, okay, and it's just, and it's some of it's the common sense,
Right.
and maybe common sense isn't even the word. We were raised a certain way. My wife was raised completely opposite, polar opposite. I would never, like, we got in a big fight when we first started dating because I called her a city slicker. And she's like, I am not a city slicker. I was like, you live in town. You've lived in town your whole life. She goes, we're kind of out of town. I'm like, a quarter mile doesn't count.
Right,
Suburbs, right? And so she's like, well, everybody's a city slicker compared to you. And I'm like, well, I'm a city slicker compared to some of these Nevada boys that have been like out in the middle of nowhere their whole life. But the thing is like, there's a certain level of like stupid shit. If you come to a gate and it's closed, close it behind you when you go. Right. If you come to a gate and it's open, leave it open behind you.
Right.
Like common sense, like in my mind, common sense stuff that I would like, okay, cows, right? I have a cow, I do this, I have this kind of fence. And then you see these guys and they're building fence and you're like, what are you doing? Like they've got some dinky hot wire. They've got hot wire. I had one guy ask me one time, he goes, I want to put a fence up. I want to have cows. I said, okay. He says, yeah, I think I'm going to use a hot wire. I was like, good luck.
Yeah. It works for 9 months out of the year, but then it's 3 months.
Then your cows are all over hill and you're getting phone calls and then your neighbors are pissed.
Right.
I mean, I had hot wire here when I started because we didn't have time to get fence in it. I told the wife, I said, we're putting in new fence because I'm tired of it going off for random things. And my horse says, well, yeah, because I've got a mule and a horse that like.
Did you try a hot in the ground?
Yeah. It's so dry. It gets so dry down here that.
Yeah, but did you use a hot wire in the ground wire and then a hot wire on ground wire?
No, I had just a 2-strand. So I had hot on top, ground on the bottom.
Yeah.
And then I put.
That didn't work?
No. And then I put grounding rods. I even had 2 grounding rods. So I had one down here because we're in a draw, So I had one in the draw where the water source is because when it gets dry. And then I had one on the far. So I had a kitty corner. So I had one in the draw and one up on our ring.
Right.
And
it's just too dry to even the hot wire didn't shock them. I was thinking if you had hot in there.
Yeah, usually that does the trick. Also, I had some like weird stuff, like my battery charger kept like shorting out. Like I went through 3 of them and then took them back and we kind of see these aren't working. They're like, oh, they work. I'm like, well, no, they don't, because I get them home, I plug them in for an hour and they work for the first hour and then they cut out and don't work. And he goes, well, how do you know that? And I say, because my fucking mule is out every time. I know exactly when it's not working.
Yeah, and so does the mule.
Well, guys, that should wrap up this episode. I think we're gonna have to do another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, cover
If it
some.
wasn't so late, I'd probably keep talking.
I know. Well, you and I have never been accused of
I'm
being
very well gifted in the mouth department.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Thanks so much, and we'll see you all, guys.